Okay, so you've got your estate plan in place, you have your will done, you have your trust, you've got your power of attorney, your healthcare documents. Now what do? Right? You've named a bunch of people in those documents, and should you give them copies of it? Well, I think there's pros and cons to both. A large part of it is just going to be family dynamics, right? Which obviously you're going to know better than the attorney who drafted everything. But some pros about it is just very practical. Well, if and when they need those documents, they have access to them, right? So if you're in the hospital and they need you to serve as the healthcare power of attorney, they've got the healthcare power of attorney. They can come in and they can communicate with the doctor. When a person passes away, if they've got your will, if they've got your trust, they don't have to go looking for everything and maybe it's misplaced. They have copies of it and they can administer things quickly. If you have Alzheimer's, dementia, and you need somebody to sign legal documents, to sell real estate, to access financial records, they've got your power of attorney, so they can start acting right away. So that's really the pro is just they've got access and they can now start doing those things when you need them to. The con of that is they can start doing some of those things without you really wanting them to or needing them to. Specifically, the power of attorney. That's really where I see most of the fraud, the elder abuse, and the just taking advantage of people. Because depending on the state where you live, some power of attorneys, as soon as they're signed, they take effect immediately. Whereas some of them might be only take effect when you have incapacity or something's happened. But in several states, including Florida, where I practice, they take effect immediately. So the day that that's signed, if you gave it to your son and your son was a bad apple and he wanted to go withdraw money from your bank account, in theory he could. So again, part of it is just you got to make sure you're naming people who you really trust. But there's always the possibility that when people get given that responsibility, they can take advantage of it. So there's that possibility. The other is just when people give their will or their trust to other people, it can create infighting because maybe they think they should be getting more, or maybe they don't think somebody else should be getting anything, or maybe they just don't like the terms of the trust. You're setting up so that they get money spread out over the lifetime. They wanted all the money up front. It's just, or maybe one of them's an attorney and now they start reviewing it and they don't like the way it was drafted. They could have done it better or differently. So it just starts creating a whole host of, you went through a process. It was very potentially stressful. You had to think about a lot of this stuff. It was maybe very painful because you're dealing with, the reality that you're going to pass away. You're thinking about worst case scenarios. What if your family passes away? What if your spouse passes away? Your kid passes away? So it's very painful potentially for you, very emotional, hopefully not painful, just emotional for you. And now you've got your kids and loved ones, coming at you with all these questions and different things. And so I typically will advise, listen, again, depending on family dynamics, they don't need copies of it. I will tell them, let them know, hey, kids, I did all my estate plan. This is my attorney. He or she's the one who drafted everything. When the time comes, you can go to them. All of my documents are stored here. I would even recommend having the kids be introduced to the attorney, not to share any information, that's confidential, but unless you authorize it, but to at least kind of maybe give them a broad overview of what happens when a person passes away, what things they need to do, make sure that they don't start transferring accounts, triggering unnecessary taxes that are going to be owed, and build a relationship with the children, with the family, and the law firm and the attorney that you're working with. I think that's hugely important. But they probably don't need documents. They probably don't need to see everything. Just let them know that you have the documents, tell them where it is, and when the time comes, they know what to do. So that would probably be my suggestion. There's pros and cons. Some people, again, depending on your age, maybe you're 95 years old and you just need the child to have access to it right now. That's a possibility. Again, pros and cons, look at family dynamics, but hopefully you've at least named people that you really trust so that you don't have to worry about any sort of fraud or anything like that.